We continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Amud Beis in Meseches Babba Kamma. This is Babba Kamma Daf 96b. On the previous Amud, Papa asked if the tiyomes of a lulav is split, is that considered to be a shinoi in terms of the halacha of shinoi kona when it comes to a stolen lulav? And the Gemara now is in the middle of bringing a proof from a statement of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says that if the tiyomes is taken, so that disqualifies the lulav in terms of the mitzvah and sukkos. And the Gemara now says, my lav, is it not? Hu hadin l'nechlika. The same would be true if the tiyomes would split. That's the same as it being taken off, it being removed. And the Gemara says, no, not necessarily. You can't bring a proof. Nitala shani, it could be that if it's removed, that is different. Because then it's missing a piece, and if it's missing a piece, that could be worse than if it is split. And the Gemara says, Ika de'amri, there are those that have a different version of this discussion. Tashma, come in here the following proof. De'amar Rav Matun, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, because Rav Matun said that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, Nechlika hatiyomes, if the tiyomes splits, nasa kamisha nala, that's the equivalent, as if it was removed. Here it's saying clearly they are the same. Upaslan, it is disqualified. And the Gemara says, Shma mina, indeed you see from here that it is considered a shinoi, that is kona. And the Gemara continues, Amar Papa says, Haiman de Gazel Afra Mechavre, if somebody steals earth from his friend, Va'avde Levinta, and makes it into bricks, Lokani, that is not considered to be a shinoi, that is kona. My time, what's the reason? Dehadar Mashvele Afra, because you can easily render it back, it's reversible, it can become earth once again. Levinta va'avdei afra, if the person stole a brick and turned that into earth, Kani, that would be a kinyan. My Amrit, what is going to be your response to this? What's your argument that it should not be considered a shinoi? Dil mahadar va'avid le levinta, that the person could go ahead and make it back into a brick. But that's not a good argument. Hai levinta, if you'd make it back into a brick. Hai levinta acharisiu, that would be a new brick. Upanim chadashos bo lakan, that would be a new face that has appeared here. It would be a new item. It wouldn't be the same old item. And therefore, again, that is considered to be a shinoi if you take a brick and turn it into dirt. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Papa, and Papa says, Haiman de Gazal Nascha Mechavre, if somebody steals a bar of silver from his friend, V'yavid Zuze, and turns it into coins, Lokani, that's not a kinyan. My time, what's the reason? Hadar Avid Lu Nascha, because it can be turned back into the Nascha. It can be turned back into the bar of silver. But Zuze V'avdinu Nascha, but if the person stole coins and turned that into a bar of silver, Kani, that would be considered a shinoi, that is kona. My Amr, what are you going to say in response? Hadar Avid Lu Zuze, that if you want, you could take this bar of silver and make it back into coins. Again, the same argument, Panim Chadash, that would be as if new faces have come here. That's a new item. That's not considered returning to what it was before. And the Gemara continues, Shchime va'avdinu chadati, if a person steals old coins, black coins, and he makes them new, Lokani, that is not considered to be a kinyan, that's not considered a significant shinoi. Chadati va'avdinu shechime, but if he steals new coins, and then he makes them old, he makes them black, Kani, that is a good kinyan. My Amr, what are you going to say? What's your response to that? Hadar avelu chadati, that if he wanted to, he could make them look new again, but meida yediyah shechmayu, it's not true. The fact that it was black before, that will always be visible. It will always be something that you'll be able to tell on these coins. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Zeh haklal, this is the rule, Kol hagazlonin mishalmin kashas hagazela, all thieves, they pay according to what it was worth at the time it was stolen. And the Gemara says, La suye mai, what is this rule? What is it coming to include? The Gemara says, La suye hada amar Rabbi Lo, it's to include that which Rabbi Lo said, Gonav telev v'nasa ayil, if a person steals a sheep and it turns into a ram, meaning to say it matures, Egel v'nasa shor, if he steals a calf and it becomes an ox, Nasa shinoi biyadu, that is considered to be a shinoi, it's a significant change, physical change, v'kano, when he acquires it, and therefore tavachu machar, if he would slaughter this animal, if he would sell this animal, shalohu toveach, shalohu mocher, he'd be slaughtering his own animal, he'd be selling his own animal, it would not be chayav dalet v'hei in that case, because he would acquire the animal. And the Gemara continues, Hahu gavra de gazal padna de ture mechavre, there was a person who stole a pair of oxen from his friend, Azal karav buhu karva, he went and plowed his field with them, Zara buhu zar, and he planted the seeds, and Lesofa adrinu lamari, and so then at the end he returned the pair of oxen to its original owner. Also Lakami de Rav Nachman, so the original owner came before Rav Nachman, Amarlu, and he said to them, Zilu shumu shivcha da'ashbach, not only did you have to return the pair of oxen, but you also have to make an evaluation, how much did the land improve, and you have to pay him for that. Amarle Rava said to him, Ture ashbach ara lo ashbach, do you think only the oxen caused the improvement, and the land itself, isn't the land also responsible for how much it improves? And the Gemara says, Amar, so he said back, Rav Nachman responded, Miko amina nishai mikule, did I say evaluate the entire improvement, he owes him all of it? Palgo amina, I just meant to say that he has to give him half of it, because some of the improvement can be attributed to the land itself, but some of the improvement can be attributed to the oxen, he owes him half. But Amar Leba, Rava said to Rav Nachman, sof, but still at the end, Gezela, who isn't this considered a standard case of Gezela, V'kahadra be'ena, and the halach is you just return what was stolen. As long as it is still intact in front of us, you can return what is stolen. You don't owe any extra money. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Kol hagazlonin mishalmin kashas hagezela, that thieves always pay according to what it was worth at the time that it was stolen, so he shouldn't owe him any more just because there was some kind of improvement on the land. Amar Le, he said back to him, Lo aminolach ki yasivna bedina lo temali midi. Didn't I tell you that when I'm sitting in judgment, don't say anything to me? Diyamar huna chavrin eloi, because Huna, our friend, said about me, Ana ushvor malka, that I and King Shapur here is a reference to Shmuel. I and Shmuel, ache bedina, were brothers when it comes to judgment. We know how to judge cases. And now he explains his actual reasoning. Hay inish gazalna atikahu, this person over here who stole the pair of oxen, he's an old thief. He's been a thief for a long time. Uvaina de kanse, and I want to impose a fine upon him, and that's why I'm making him pay for the improvement on the land. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Gazal behema v'hizkina, if somebody steals an animal and it ages, Avodim v'hizkinu, if he steals slaves and they age, Meshalem kashas hagzela, he pays what they were worth at the time that they were stolen. He has to pay the higher amount. He can't just return the aged animal or the aged slave. Rabbi Meir says, Ba'avodim, when it comes to slaves, Omer lo hareshel chalafanecha, he can say to him, take back what is yours. He can give him the slave as is. We've mentioned before that Rabbi Meir over here holds that avodim are like karka. Just like karka, something that cannot be stolen, is always considered to be in the possession of the original owner, so too by avodim, and that's why he just returns the avodim as is. And the Gemara continues, Gazal matbeya v'nistak, if somebody steals a coin and it cracks, peiros v'yirkivu, if somebody steals fruit and they rot, yayin v'hechmetz, if somebody steals wine, it turns to vinegar, mishalem kashas hagzela, again, those are all cases of shinoi, and he has to pay what they were worth at the time that the item was stolen. Matbeya v'nifsel, if he steals a coin and it becomes disqualified, that's a kind of damage that is not visible. Truma v'nitme, similarly, he steals truma, it becomes tameh, again, a kind of damage that cannot be seen, it's not physical. Chametz v'avar olav Pesach, if he steals chametz and then Pesach goes by, and therefore it becomes prohibited to get benefit from that chametz, again, a kind of damage that is not physical. Behema v'nis avda ba'aveira, an animal, and now an aveira was done with that animal, and again, it's a kind of damage, so to speak, to the animal that is not visible. O shenifsala me'al gabe hamizbeach, or if that animal now became disqualified from going on the mizbeach, again, that situation is also considered along the same lines. We'll see Rashi in a moment. O shahaisa yotza lisakel, or if the animal is being taken out to be stoned. In all of these cases, Omer lo hareshel chalafanech, in all of these cases, he can just give back the item and say, this is yours, here it is, meaning to say it's not considered to be a shinoi, he just gives back the item as is. And Rashi explains, Ba'avodim omer lo hareshel chalafanecha dechikarka dami uvreshusei demari kaimi. As we said, when it comes to avodim, they're considered to be like land, according to Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah, and therefore they're always in the possession of the original owner. That's why he can say hareshel chalafanecha. Gazal matbeya v'nistik, if he steals a coin and it cracks, shinoi hanikru, that's a physical change that is visible. V'nevda ba'avera, then we had a case of an animal where an avera was done with the animal. That can be one of two things, near bas o nevda. It could be a situation where the animal's involved in bestiality. It could also be a situation where the animal was served as avodah zarah. In both of these cases, psula l'karban, it becomes disqualified as being a karban. Kedetanya b'shor shenagach arba v'chamisha, as we said in Parak Shor Shanagach Arba v'Chamisha, Shenifsala me'al gabe hamizbeach, or if some other thing happens that causes that you can't bring the animal on the mizbeach, b'mum, meaning there's a blemish, she'ein nikar, but it's a blemish that really is not visible, so it's not considered to be a physical, a real shinoi. It's only considered to be something that is a disqualification, that is not considered physical, that is not visible, kedokan sheba'ayin. Again, you have some kind of blemish on the eye. Petur, and the reason why in this case, Pater Rashi says, Techol behemos lav lemizbeach kaimi, animals are not necessarily meant to be brought on the mizbeach, so just because there's a damage, so to speak, that you can't bring it on the mizbeach, that is not considered to be a significant shinoi. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Papa says, Lo hizkino mamish, when the Mishnah says that the animal ages, it doesn't really mean it ages. Ela afil kichsha, even if it just gets thinner, that also would count. The Gemara says, Va'anon hizkina tran, but it says in our Mishnah that it ages. Why is Rav Papa interpreting that as getting leaner, as getting thinner? And the Gemara explains to that, Kichsha kagon hizkina to lo hadar bari. What we're talking about here is that it gets thinner in a similar way of something aging, that it's not going to go back to what it was before. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Markshisha Breder of Chisel Rav Ashi. Markshisha, the son of Rav Chisel, said to Rav Ashi, Hachi Ka'amri Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. This is what they say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Afilu Gonav Tlev V'Nasa Ayil. Even if a person steals a sheep and it becomes a ram, Egel V'Nasa Shor. If he steals a calf and it becomes an ox, Nasa Shinoi Biyado V'Kano. That's considered to be a shinoi, and he acquires the animal. Tavach u'macher, if he slaughters it or he sells it, shalohu toveach, shalohu mocher. What he's slaughtering is considered to be his. What he's selling is considered to be his. There's no dalid v'hei. Amar le, he said back to him, Lav amino loch, didn't I say to you, lo tachlif gavre, don't switch around who says things. Hahu mishmei Rabbi Lo itmar. That statement, although that statement is true, it was actually said not in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, it was said in the name of Rabbi Lo. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Rabbi Meir Omer ba'avodim Omer lo harei shel chalafanecha. Rabbi Meir says avodim is like karka. Avodim are like land, and he can say to him harei shel chalafanecha. Omer Rav Chanina bar Avdimi Omer Rav. Rav Chanina bar Avdimi says that Rav says halacha k'Rabbi Meir. The halacha is like Rabbi Meir, meaning to say the halacha is that avodim are considered to be like karka, and the person can just say harei shel chalafanecha. And the Gemara says, "V'Rav shavik Rabbanan v'avid Rabbi Meir." Does it really make sense to say that Rav would abandon the position of the Rabbanan and he would say that we paskin like Rabbi Meir? Why would he paskin like Rabbi Meir over the Rabbanan? And the Gemara says, Amri, they say, Mishum de Braisa Ipchatanya, there's a Braisa that has it reversed, and so therefore the Braisa actually has what we have as Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah, is actually the Rabbanan in the Braisa. He's actually paskening like the Rabbanan. The Gemara says, V'Rav Shavik Masnisan V'Yavik Kebraisa, but would Rav abandon the Mishnah's version and take the Braisa's version? That also doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, Rav Masnisan Nami Ipchatani, no, Rav, when he learned the Mishnah, he also had the Mishnah in reverse. And the Gemara says, "Umay time de Rav da apich masnisan mekame de brisa." Now, what is the reason that Rav would reverse a Mishnah because of a brisa? Adarav, on the contrary, nepach le brisa mekame masnisan. Why doesn't he reverse the brisa in the face of the Mishnah? And the Gemara explains, clarifies. Amri, they say Rav nami masnisan ipcha asne. It doesn't mean that Rav reversed the Mishnah from what he had in front of him. The way that Rav originally learned the Mishnah was in the reverse of what we have. And the Gemara continues, if you want, we could say another answer. We're not going to reverse things if it's one against one. But let's say you have one brisa, let's say you have one Mishnah, but there are two brisas against that Mishnah, so then we will reverse the Mishnah, and that's actually what's happening over here. The Tanya, because we have a brisa that says, there's another brisa that indicates that we should reverse the opinions. The brisa says, Hamachlif para b'chamor, if somebody exchanges a cow for a donkey, this is a kinyan chalipin, one person gives a cow to another in exchange for the donkey, and the halacha is that when the first person takes the first animal, that automatically creates that kinyan. But then what happens is v'yolda, what happens is that the par gives birth. V'chein ha'mocher shivchasa, or somebody sells a shivcha, v'yolda, and the shivcha gives birth. And the question is, did the birth take place in the hands of the mocher, and therefore the mocher is entitled to the offspring, or did the birth take place in the hands of the lokayach, and the lokayach is entitled to the offspring? And so that's an argument. Zeh omer b'reshusa yolda. So the brisa goes through a few cases. In the first case is this one says that it happened in my possession. I'm the one that gets the offspring. V'halo shosek, and the other individual doesn't. He's just quiet, doesn't say anything. So zachaba. So then the person who says it was in my rishus, he actually wins the case. Ze omer eini yodeya v'ze omer eini yodeya. Let's say this one says I don't know, and the other one also says I don't know. So then yachloku. So then they split it. Ze omer b'reshusi v'ze omer b'reshusi. If this one says it happened in my rishus, and the other one says it happened in my rishus, so they're both certain that they're entitled. So in that case, the brisa says yishava hamocher shebereshuso yulada. The seller, he should take an oath that it happened while it was in his rishus. And why is it that he's the one that takes the oath? And then if he takes that oath, he's going to get it. Lefi shekol hanishbon shebetorah nishbon v'lo mishalman. Because anytime someone takes an oath in the Torah, it's the person who takes the oath who is not going to end up paying. In this case, the mocher is going to essentially keep the offspring and not pay, and therefore he's the one that should take the oath, so that it's a case of nishboin v'lo mishalman. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim omer, but the Chachamim say, ein nishboin lo al ha'avodim v'lo al ha'karkos. One does not take an oath on slaves, and one does not take an oath on land, implying that Rabbi Meir would hold that one does take an oath on the case of the slave, and if you're taking an oath on the avodim, that would mean that avodim are not considered like karka, but avodim are considered like metaltalin. So here we have another brisa where Rabbi Meir is saying that avodim are considered like metaltalin, and therefore Rav reverses the Mishnah and says it's Rabbi Meir who would say that the avodim are considered like metaltalin, and it's the Rabbanan who would say that the avodim are considered to be like land, and that's why we would not apply shinoi kona to avodim, because we follow the Rabbanan. But the Gemara still says, Hi halacha Rabbi Meir, but now you're saying the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. That's the way Rav phrased it. Halacha Rabbanan mi boile. He should have just said the halacha is like the Rabbanan if he has everything in reverse. Why is he saying the halacha is like Rabbi Meir if he understands Rabbi Meir says the opposite and he's really paskening like the Rabbanan? And the Gemara says simply, Hachi Kamma, this is what he's saying. According to the way you have everything backwards, halacha Rabbi Meir. The halacha is like Rabbi Meir, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph.